Bomas is ready, there is a long queue of people who want to use that facility. Number two, and then of course, before I finish that, we need to sort out this city. My last meeting last evening was about the city of Nairobi and what we need to do in terms of cleaning it, lighting Nairobi. Nairobi is very dark. Cleaning tilling the place. We are the environmental capital of the world with UNEP here and Habitat. But if you go to Nairobi River, it has no indication that we have anything to do with environment. And so we are sorting out Nairobi River. The good news, I just want to tell you, I have a date on the 15th of January next year. We will open up Nairobi River and you will see something very different. Yes. And then we will go to Ngong River and finally have Nairobi in a good place. The second thing we must do is to deal with hunger. We are still a very hungry country. It is very shocking. There are still too many people in Kenya who sleep hungry. Too many. Of course, it's because partly it's because 85% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid, but that is not a reason, because all those arid areas have very good soils. We have enough. They may not have rain, but with harvesting and storage, we can have enough water. So the next thing we are going to do, and it's going to begin this year, we are beginning with the first 15 mega dams this year, is to do water harvesting and storage and bring at least 2.5 million acres into production. First, to make sure that every person in Kenya has food. You know, there is nothing as demeaning, as dehumanizing as a person who is hungry. So we need to deal with that. And then, of course, we are opening new markets for our products. We have concluded negotiations with one of the largest markets in the world, in China. We will now access the Chinese market duty-free, quota-free, for all our agricultural products, from tea, coffee, avocados, macadamia, and everything else. But we need to produce enough. We need to produce enough. What we are producing at the moment is not enough. We need to produce enough for us to be able to lift our economy. And finally, the third thing we need to do is to generate enough energy. We have a serious energy deficit. We have in our grid 3,300 megawatts. At the minimum, we need another 10,000. We need 3 times what we have at the minimum, if we have to undertake the transformation that is necessary to take our country to the next level. Today, the Ministry of Energy will tell you, every evening, on some peak hours, we have to do load shedding, you know. And what that does, it undermines our economy. Let me give you an example. I was in, what was the name of that place? In Diwa. I was in Diwa someplace. So we went there to commission a transmission line, 69 kilometers of transmission line, which we had built. And the information that we were given is that just because of that transmission line, the sales, electricity consumption actually in that particular area, very small area, had doubled because they had reliable energy, which means there is a lot of potential out there, but it's constrained by the amount of energy that is available. Let me give you another example. I went to the US on the famous trip with President Biden when he invited me. And in this big ceremony, we signed a couple of MOUs and programs. And one of them was on data centers, you know, the technology that brings data centers on board. And we signed with Microsoft, Kenya, and a company from the UAE called G42. And I was very happy with it because it was going to be an investment of $1 billion in Kenya to set up the first ever green data center. Until I arrived in Kenya, and when the process started, I was told, Mr. President, for us to implement this project, we need 1,000 megawatts of energy. Okay? So what does that mean? That I shut down half the country to implement this one project. Because if you have 3,000 megawatts and one project wants 1,000, so it was not possible for us to implement this $1 billion project. And there are many other investment opportunities that we are losing because we do not have enough energy. And that is why we have to be innovative. All the three programs I've just said, which are really the basic minimum for us as a country to lift ourselves, requires about $40 billion or 5 trillion Kenya shillings. That's what we need. And that is why we have, with my team, we have sat down, we have looked at what other countries have done, what has worked elsewhere, what is best practice, and we have created a channel for us to be able to do this. We have to mobilize our own domestic resources. We have to create the correct framework for us to leverage on private money. That is why public-private partnership is a big thing. We are lucky that in Kenya we have a working capital markets ecosystem. Our Nairobi Stock Exchange is one of the best assets that we have. It was the second best stock exchange in the African continent. So we have a real tool for us to be able to leverage private sector money, both locally and globally. And that is the reason why we have set up the National Infrastructure Fund, so that we can use it to mobilize domestic resources through our mature assets like Kenya Pipeline, Safaricom and others. And already the National Infrastructure Fund, we have raised the first 100 billion using the Kenya Pipeline IPO. We will raise another 2.5, at least 2 billion in the next coming months, 2-3 months. And we will move on, and it will be possible for us to leverage that money, use private sector money, deploy using our capital markets, raise more resources from other sources, use our pension funds and others who have a lot of patient money, but they are lacking opportunities to invest. And that is why they are crowded at the treasury bills and buying bonds and what. So we're going to look at that space. And I'm very excited that very many people are coming forward who are very quiet. And then they're saying we have opportunity, we can support here, we have money to help you do this, we have resources. Just give us the right structure, we are going to invest. To be able to have these three work out, we need another three enablers. Number one is to up our game in science, innovation, technology, so that we can create the right caliber of people who can assist us with new knowledge on how we take our country to the next level. A country cannot develop beyond its capacity to think. Yes. Yeah, it's just as simple as that. If your thinking goes up to here, that's the end. You cannot. So, and that's why I brought this good man, Professor Shokat from IEA, to come and head our State Department for Science, Research, Innovation. Please see them. Because we need those people. We need these people who, we have a good education system, but we need a higher caliber of thinkers, people who can work with us so that they can help us do the right things. Today, I am the leader of this great nation, but I can tell you, everything I have implemented, it is not just my thoughts. I have pulled a lot of knowledge from very intelligent people who are more intelligent than me. Yeah, I've had to leverage on their intelligence to be able to drive the country forward. Because it is said, wisdom and knowledge cannot fit in one head. Yeah? One head can only accommodate so much. But people have to be gracious to say there are some things I need the help of other people for us to be able to get ourselves where we want to go, right? That's why research is going to be a very big thing. We're going to deploy more resources in research. We're going to deploy more resources in science, in technology, and we are moving in that direction. That's enabler number one, knowledge. Yes. Number two is security. We are putting together a lot of resources. You will see in matter security, because we live in a very, difficult neighborhood. We have all our countries around us, and we have real security issues. So we need to up our game. We need to modern technology. We are modernizing our police infrastructure. We are modernizing our defense infrastructure. We have to bring in new ways of doing things into this space. It's going to be much more intelligence-led, less about brute force, more about intelligence, more about targeting the right places. And so you will be seeing some of the areas we will be putting our resources in. And then finally, we have to reorganize our software. We need a much more patriotic nation, good people. We need to believe in ourselves. You know, you listen to some people, you think they have a spare country. They talk about Kenya as if this is our country. This is us. We must believe in ourselves. We can do it ourselves. You know? Sometimes I get amazed as to how people believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. Really? You know, I sat at this conference this week at Radisson Blu, and I listened to the country director of the World Bank talk about Kenya. I listened to one gentleman, an investor in BPO, talk about Kenya. I listened to one lady, she runs, I think, Flamingo Flower something in Naivasha, talk about Kenya. And I was amazed as to how other people think about us. They were talking about how good our human capital is, how innovative our people are, how hardworking we are as a people, you know. But you listen to some of our leaders, and some others have even the audacity to say, oh, you know, we are a failed state. Really? Where? You know? And you want to be a leader in this country. You want to be a leader of a failed state. Anyway. So, good people. And I will tell this to the people of Kenya proudly. We are a great nation. We are a great people. We can do it. Let us believe in ourselves. Let us stop the negativity. Let us stop the negativity about our country. Let's project the reality of who we are, you know. And I think we need more about our patriotism, our belief in ourselves, our belief in our nation, and that is really going to make a hell lot of a difference. But slowly, I think we are getting ourselves there, slowly. There are people who are saying nothing is happening in Kenya. Today, their voices are going down because they can see something is happening in our country. And we will continue to push the limits, and I will continue to lead from the front. I will continue. So let me, I think I've been carried away a bit, but let me say this. I really needed to talk to you because you are the people who will talk about our country out there. Please project the right image of our nation. You know, let's get the right image of Kenya. Kenya is not about chaos. Kenya is not about destruction. Kenya is not about all those other things. We are a serious nation, very serious nation. And many people believe in us. Just for the record, G7 is going to have its meeting shortly. Yeah? And the chair of the G7 this year is going to be France. And they have invited Kenya to speak on behalf of this continent. That is how serious we are. So, please, let us believe in ourselves. Finally, you should know with clarity that Kenya will remain firmly committed to playing its leadership role as a regional, continental and global participant. We are proud and responsible members of the international community, and we will continue to act with purpose in shaping a more just, inclusive, and effective global order. In response to evolving global realities, we will pursue a principled and pragmatic foreign policy. We will engage partners across all regions on the basis of mutual respect and shared benefit, while remaining steadfast in advancing our sovereignty, preserving our strategic autonomy, and securing our long-term national interest. We will persist in defending multilateralism while championing the reform of multilateral institutions, including the United Nations Security Council, so that they become more representative, more responsive, and truly fit for purpose. Nairobi, as the only United Nations headquarters in the Global South, carries both prestige and responsibility. Kenya must therefore work with other countries, especially in the Global South, to ensure that their voice, perspectives, and priorities are effectively advanced in the international fora. We look forward to hosting, as I said, 2 landmark global engagements that will underscore Kenya's growing role as a convener of consequential international dialogue. In May, we will host the Africa-France Summit, the first to be held outside the Francophonie, providing a strategic platform to reframe Africa's partnership with France in trade, investment, and industrial cooperation on the basis of parity and mutual respect. In June, Kenya will also host the 11th Our Oceans Conference in Mombasa and Kilifi, the first ever on African soil, bringing together governments, civil society, and the private sector to advance marine conservation, the blue economy, climate resilience, and ocean governance, while creating real opportunities for our communities and for our economies. I expect you, dear people, to actively participate, amplify Kenya's voice, and help build momentum for our global engagements with a focus on Kenya's national interest. Thank you very much. Let me reiterate as I conclude, when called upon, Kenya will continue to rise to the occasion in support of global peace and security. Our leadership in international and regional engagements, such as the deployment of our police officers to Haiti and active involvement through the AU and other regional organizations in the DRC, South Sudan, Somalia, and elsewhere, reflects our steadfast commitment to global stability, solidarity, and shared responsibility. As the champion of the reform of the African Union institutions, we will continue to actively advance this agenda of strengthening the AU's institutional capacity and strategic relevance. We are equally committed to deepening regional integration as a cornerstone of our foreign policy. Kenya will continue to advance cooperation within the East African community, while also strengthening engagements through the common markets for Eastern and Southern Africa. At the continental level, we will remain strong supporters of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, alongside other regional peace, trade, and infrastructure initiatives that enhance connectivity, expands markets, and promotes shared prosperity across Africa. On climate action, Kenya remains at the forefront of continental leadership. As the chair of the Committee of African Heads of States on climate change, we are driving our continent's collective voice and ambition in global climate negotiations. Our foreign policy framework, set out in sessional paper number 1 of 2025, is anchored on a whole of government and a whole of society approach. Our diplomacy must remain rooted in everyday interests of Kenyans, the farmer seeking better prices, the worker abroad in need of protection, and the entrepreneur seeking access to new markets. I urge you to believe in our great nation and to serve it with unwavering dedication. You occupy positions of both high privilege and responsibility. As we work here at home to transform our country, you are the face, you are the voice, and the standard of Kenya beyond our borders. I call upon you to embody that responsibility with integrity, conviction, and a deep sense of purpose. With these remarks, it is my distinct pleasure to declare the 19th edition of Ambassadors Conference open, and I thank you.